Well, welcome to Theology on Tap. My name is Michael McLean, and I work in St. Thomas More Campus Ministry. I'm so happy that you're here with us this evening. Tonight we have a special guest from, actually, he's the executive lead for Mission Ethics and Spirituality he'll tell you all about it, but his name, please welcome Francis Maza.
Thank you, Michael. So I work for Emmanuel Care, which is the sponsor organization. So we're the sponsor in honor of all the Catholic facilities, well, most of all of them in Saskatchewan. So facilities like St. Paul's Hospital, St. Anne's, Samaritan Place, Trinity Manor, St. Angela Merici here in the city. Just to name a few.
Right, yeah. Wow. Okay, so Francis, you're the third guest on our Theology on Tap series this year, and you're the first person who actually is going to have a drink. So cheers. Cheers to you. Anyways, our theme this year for Theology on Tap is exploring vocations, and so we wanted to hear a little bit about your story. And I was wondering if you could start us off by letting us know a little bit about your story and how you ended up here in Saskatoon.
Well, thank you. Really, this is an awesome opportunity to just join you and have a drink together. We've been meaning to do this for a while, so we can do two things at once. So the last 13 years now, I've been working for Emmanuel Care. But my story begins a little bit before that, coming to Saskatoon. As you can tell, I'm Latino, or at least, my brown color tells me, gives me away. And I grew up in a very scenic city in El Salvador called Sonate, which is surrounded by volcanoes and a lot of beautiful vegetation with only, 10 minutes from the ocean. So that's the best part for me when I go back. If I ever get a chance to go, I do. And I came to Canada when I was 18 years old. And it was during the time of the Civil War. And my parents had applied to come to Canada. They knew someone who lived in Toronto, and they said, oh, Canada is the place to go. So you got to apply to go there. So they did. And 2 years later, we finally got a telegram, believe it or not, confirming that, yes, this is the day that you're going to Canada. So a month before that, we packed everything we could pack, and everybody was allowed one suitcase. So put whatever you can, and you're going. And we arrived in Toronto on a beautiful winter night of January 19th, 1990, with our final destination in Canada being Lloydminster in Alberta, and the Alberta side. We moved to the Saskatchewan a year later, but that was the first place where we kind of, took our first sleep. And it was I was thinking about this. It was an odd experience. I mean, I was happy to have a new opportunity, but I was sad at the same time to saying goodbye to all my family, my friends. I was 18 years old, so I had a life plan ahead of me. And here I am now, trying to start all over again. And feeling a bit guilty because I wanted to be excited, but at the same time saying, oh man, what have we done? So that's, and so when it was time to, a year later after we arrived in Canada, we moved across the street to the Saskatchewan side and bought a house. So when it was time to come to university.
You went to the good side.
That's right. I saw that and moved forward. Now, when it was time to come to university, I applied to the West, and I moved to Saskatoon and never left. So
we're lucky. We're lucky to have you. Okay, and then what did you end up studying?
So when I came to Saskatoon, all my life I wanted to be in some form of medical field. Of course, now I'm trying to compete. I didn't speak English, so trying to compete, getting into medicine, couldn't do it. But I got into medical microbiology, and I graduated with my undergrad in medical microbiology. Later on, went to study, started my classes at Newman and my master's program, and then actually graduated in the master's program from the Lutheran College or Seminary in Saskatoon. And then lately, the last degree was my doctorate work that I got from University of Toronto at St. Michael's. in Toronto.
Wow. Okay. So you've got the science and religion.
Yes, and it's been a good mix. And that's why when you asked me about this topic of vocation, I thought, actually, that may be fun to talk about.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's the next question. Um, we're talking about call and how God calls us, and our response to God's call. So, how would you describe your vocation, and how would you describe God's call to you?
Well, that's a big question, and I've been thinking about it because I thought he's going to ask this. So it's a long answer to it, but I'm going to be very to try to summarize. I think when I look at my own book and looking back, has been profoundly shaped, I believe, and strengthened by really my personal experience in in the within my family and the people that are around me, my community and my society, in very key people who have come into my life at different times through my journey that have made a significant impact in how I move in my own vocation. When I was since I can remember, I wanted to be in ministry. I wanted to do something to do with comfort, healing, helping others. Now, I I saw that what that may look like first at home, and I through my parents, and I wanted that. So I wasn't thinking any priesthood like that. That was not what I had in mind. You see, my parents were really involved in the church. And that, I mean, being Latino, tradition is very important. So everything that goes with the smells and the bells, our Catholic tradition, we were all in. And my parents also got involved with all sorts of movements within the church. So they have the base Christian communities, the renewal charismatic, the marriage encounters, name it, they got in there. And so I was the oldest one. So I got pulled into a lot of what they were doing just by, hanging around with them. And so I was teaching catechism. I was teaching catechism next thing I know. And I taught the Baltimore Catechism. You're too young for that stuff, but
Oh,
the
okay.
old school stuff.
We got old
the
school
four,
guests tonight.
the 421 questions of the Baltimore Catechism, and unless you knew them, you were not going to have your first communion. So there was serious business of that thing. But
Wait a second.
that was
How can we believe you? Wait a minute. What is a sacrament?
oh, a sacrament. That's an easy one. Give me a tough one. Give me a tough one. uh, one of the things, though, it was here that I really began to explore what the heck was my faith and really kind of put flesh to these ideas that I had. But I was still teenager and grown up through El Salvador, which was a fun place and also a tough place to be. Around 7 or 8 years old, I remember, I mean, when I was in grade 7 or 8, I learned to play guitar, mostly popular songs, you know, Latino, trying to do other things that my mom did not approve. So she said one day, you should come and play for the church. And I said, no, I'm okay. But one night, she was asked to go and lead the funeral prayers at somebody who was killed during that time. And she said, you really would help if you would come. Then play a few songs. And I said, okay. So I did. And that really changed my life. I got a first taste. What would it like to help somebody else in a time of crisis and at times of their own suffering, and that I could bring some help. And I liked it. I thought this could be it. Um, I got involved with the small Christian communities, and I saw what community can do for you, the good that can offer, the support that they can give. And again, my vocation was strengthened by those little experiences about helping other people. Um, as I said, I was always attracted to healthcare, which was an interesting because ministry typically people think about religious life and things like that. I wasn't thinking that. I'm thinking about being a doctor. We used to live across the street from the public hospital, And people would line up early in the morning before the sun would come out outside the building to try to and hope to see a doctor that day. The sick would line up, hoping that maybe somebody would help. Um, Myself and my family, we line up a few times with the same hope that maybe we can somebody. So I always was attracted to that, and that never left me. That passion, the desire to be in healthcare, to do something in ministry, stay with me. I just didn't know how would it look like. Um, as I study now and I read the most, smart people, I come to believe that any spiritual writer that both within our tradition and outside, worth their salt, who are pointing to vocation, they always say that it's not a voice out there calling me to something, but it's a voice inside of me, telling me to be the person that I was born to be. Finding my true vocation, then I think is my ability to listen to that voice and then respond to the best of what I can do, um, by doing my work or activity that would provide a direction for that. And for me, that has been the journey, trying to figure out, so what gives me life and where does my gift can be useful. And looking back, I mean, I had an awesome formation. I grew up with a strong incarnation theology, and I didn't even have the language for that. I grew up with an influence of liberation theology, and I didn't even know what was that all about, but rooted on a context that kind of look at the gospel through a social lens of responsibilities that now in my ministry have paid dividends in so many ways because of that early experience through my parents, who, not because they say you should do this or they simply say, we need your help, you're good at this, come and do it. So that's my first piece of vocation. But then coming to Canada, I think I wanted to say this because it's really been crucial for me. Well, that's a good idea.
It's
Have
okay.
a drink.
Theology on tap.
Yeah. Coming to Canada, my vocation then got really tested, right? Because now I'm in a different country. I don't speak the language. I don't know anybody. I don't have any family or friends. So what does it look like here? And so as I look back, it has been these key people in my life that really have helped me try to navigate my own journey. Beginning with my oblate connection. While I was at university, I lived at the mayor's house with the oblates in community, and wow, that shaped my whole understanding of what does it mean to live in community here, and with the oblate spirituality, serving the poor, and really a deep concern for the people in the margins. Uh, of course, their outreach to the youth, that was like that was perfect for me with my background and music and working in youth ministry. And I remember going to, at that time, there was no Wakakam yet. There was some kind of youth something that we would take the training, and we did, and you did, trying to figure out how do we ministry to the youth. So I went in that direction. Then I come to STM and meet the Basilian priest there, the Father Callum, and I got involved in campus ministry with Newman and CCO and the different stuff going on. And every time I fell in love with the ministry that I was doing, and I think that's why I stay with it, because I enjoy it. It gave life, and again, my own gifts gonna help finding a place where I can belong. Um, when I started working at the parish, I work at St. John Bosco as a parish worker. Um, And I remember I give, full credit to Father Paul Don Levy, who really encouraged me to go to continue my grad school and going to study theology. And I remember bringing my marks from my canon law class, and I was so proud because I did pretty good. And he was just so excited for me, and I thought, here's another area that I love and I enjoyed it and it was fun. And then because working for the parish, I discovered another love, which was being at the hospital as a hospital chaplain. And that really was, I think when I discovered and I was doing that, that's when I was probably the most at home, because really marry those two passions that I have for theology and being in the healthcare system. And I was doing really, I enjoyed that immensely until I met Father Mark Miller, who introduced me to clinical ethics, who says, come along and see what, this is about. And I, again, fall in love with ethics and what that could do to help people in during difficult decisions. That, of course, cost me a few years of more school, going to more education, but really finding it fantastic and being able to do what I do now, and whether I'm doing clinical ethics or organizational ethics, um, and through that moral theology that is my foundation. Um, it's really what has given the most part of my life. So my parents, key people who said, use your gifts, enjoy what you're doing. If you can find somebody who can pay you for doing what you like, that's it. But and really, I think those two have been immensely powerful in my life, and being able to find a wife who also believes in that and support it, and having a family within that context. My kids always say, they say, what does your dad do for a living? And they say, I don't know, he just works for the church. It's been so much fun. I don't know. That's a long way to say, I mean, my vocation, this call, yes, but it's been discovered and rediscovered. And I wonder, where's the next door that may open and say, check this one out. But for now, I'm quite happy here.
Oh no, it sounds like you really ended up in the place where you are called to be. Like this is sounds like such a great match for the story you just told in
Hmm.
terms of where you ended up. Um, you were talking a little bit about I don't know how much time you have to read these days because you're busy, but would there be spiritual authors that you would recommend for our young adult audience?
Oh, yes. You know, uh, One of the things that I love about my position and my work, that I actually am part of a program that we teach new leaders coming and working in Catholic healthcare. And really, when in Catholic healthcare, it's not a requirement for you to be Catholic. We want the best possible people for us, but we also, I mean, if they're Catholic, that's great. But if not, then we're going to provide you with the foundational kind of pieces to help you. And some of the people that we recommend them to read are books from Parker Palmer, who
Okay.
talk on vocation. Joan Chittister, Sister Joan, who also writes a lot on vocation. And then if you want a little bit deeper stuff, then you go into Thomas Merton and some of his writing on that, and what's contemplation about, and how do we center ourselves as leaders where we're constant under pressure trying to make decisions, and yet those decisions will impact so many people's. How do we balance that sense of urgency and at the same time discernment? So those are the three authors that I would say are worth reading as young people are trying to figure out, so where am I supposed to be?
Yeah, that's right. That's right for sure. You were talking a little bit about Merton and centering yourself and living in balance. And now we find ourselves in this time of pandemic. Here you are. You're working in spiritual care and healthcare. Uh, are you able to find that center, find that balance in life?
I would like to say yes, but most of the time it's a struggle. Feels like I would say like I'm in a roller coaster. Sometimes you're just trying to stay alive, hanging for dear life, with everything coming at you. With the pandemic, we have protocol get changed overnight, and so we need to communicate them to the staff and to the families in a way that are compassionate, and in a way that are meaningful. And sometimes we're just going one thing to the next, from meeting back to meeting, and so trying to stay rooted is tough. At the same time, though, when we're able to slow down a bit, um, for me, and I try to share that as many with my leaders as much as I can. It's the time to in the morning for me when things are quiet. Everybody's still sleeping. The dog is not barking. I can just have my quiet time and my meditation and my own reflection about what's going on. Um, Without that, I think it's easy for me to go through the vortex of depression and just everything is going down to the pits. Um, and and that's the last thing we need, because we need to keep focused and we need to keep not just positive but optimistic about and hopeful about what we can do and what
We live in hope. We live in hope. Cheers.
we drink. No.
So tell me.
No, and I think
Oh, no, go ahead.
no, I think that keeps me centered, and I think the pandemic, I mean, as bad as it is, and using Zoom and all that stuff, and has also given me the opportunity to see friends and family that I don't often see because I'm working all the time. But now we can Zoom, we can do FaceTime, we can, and everybody's getting good at it, so we can Zoom from anywhere and whatever time we can get. So that also helps kind of for me remaining kind of center. Without getting overly serious about. I mean, it's a serious situation, but it can be too much sometimes. Well, I really want to thank you for this chance, though, to do this talk. And I mean, I don't know who listens to this, but I
Many
hope that
people from the diocese.
Oh, okay, good.
If you said something you don't want, I would have to go back and edit it.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about my own vocation, but I think it's been the time that we're in right now, as people working in the church, lay ministers like you and me. We're in a time in the history where there's a lot of good things happening. In the relationships that we have now with the ecclesial church, with the bishop and the priest, particularly, I think has been very much well fostered in this diocese. And I'm proud and to work in a place where we can be appreciated, but more than appreciated, part of the team that works for the common good of the people here. So thank you for the opportunity to do this. This has been fun.
I'm so happy that we could finally schedule this in and make it happen. If I can't get you in real life, I might as well get you for work.
That's right. I'm happy to do it.
Okay, well, cheers.
Cheers one more time.
Happy New Year. I hope you have. I hope you and all the spiritual care workers have a great New Year, and it's very important work that you're doing.
No, my hat off to all my colleagues who, day in and day out, continue to provide the ministry at the bedside in the evenings and the weekends. It's a blessing to them. I know, I dare, but it's also great that they can continue to do that. So.
Well, thank you for leading them.
All right. Well, thanks.
It's an executive lead that you're doing. I found out. I read it. I read it on your card.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, so these, you know what? In the other sessions of Theology on Tap, I didn't get to this part, but did you ever watch the Actors Studio?
No.
There was this guy. He was I think he's passed now, but he was James. I can't remember his last name, but he was a very particular host. He had a beard and glasses, and he trying to draw out of and they always ask these two questions at the end of inside the Actors Studio, and one of them was, "What's your favorite curse word?" And I would always laugh because I watched a show on PBS, and they'd always bleep out that you never found out what it was.
Well, I don't know if I have one favorite one. I have a good lexicon of colorful language that I implement both in English and in Spanish when I need to. and multiple language if necessary.
That's good to know. It's good. Yeah, to let off the steam. Okay, and then the other question that we were stealing from the actors inside the actor studio was, what would you want God to say to you when you get to heaven?
Huh. It's a good question. Well, honestly, I would be happy and quite happy. He says, "It is good to see you here." If he can say that, or I'm glad you made it. And of course, because I like wine, I think if he say, and we have a sample of the wine that Jesus made in Cana, it's been aging properly for a few decades, centuries, ready for you. I think that would be awesome.
And I'm kind of wondering, we in WCACM, the Western Canadian Association of Catholic Youth Ministers, we learned about ministry and training the trainers, and now you're supporting your leaders, and just wondering who's supporting you in this time of pandemic, and not just in the time of pandemic, but in your ministry in general.
Well, that formation, which I look back with great appreciation, has continued to serve me well over the years, because it's always the question, so who sustain us? There's my guard dog.
You're at the top of the heap now, man.
Let me drink to that for now.
Cheers.
Cheers.